President John F. Kennedy was assassinated on November the 22nd, 1963 at 12:30 p.m. while riding in a motorcade in Dallas during a campaign visit. Kennedy's motorcade was turning past the Texas School Book Depository at Dealey Plaza with crowds lining the streets when shots simply rang out. The driver of the president's Lincoln limousine, with its top off, raced to nearby Parkland Memorial Hospital, but after being shot in the neck and head, Kennedy was pronounced dead at 1 p.m. He was 46 years old. A generation of Americans would forever remember where they were when they heard about the president's assassination, as it would have a profound political and cultural impact on the entire nation. By 2:15 p.m., Lee Harvey Oswald, a new employee at the book depository, was arrested for JFK's assassination, as well as for the fatal 1:15 p.m. shooting of Dallas patrolman J.D. Tippit. 2 days later, on November the 24th, Oswald would be murdered by local nightclub owner and police informant Jack Ruby at point blank range and on live TV. Born in New Orleans in 1939, Oswald's father died of a heart attack 2 months before he was born. After living off and on in an orphanage as a boy, he moved with his mom to New York at the age of 12, where he was sent to a youth detention center for truancy. It was during this time that he became interested in socialism. After moving back to New Orleans, Oswald joined the Marines in 1956, where he earned a sharpshooter qualification and discovered Marxism. Upon receiving an early honorable discharge from the Marines in 1959, he defected to the Soviet Union for 2.5 years, where he was denied citizenship but allowed to stay in the country and was monitored by the KGB. Upon learning that Oswald had wanted to defect, the Marines downgraded his 1959 discharge from honorable to undesirable in 1962. Later that year, Oswald returned to Texas with his Soviet wife and young daughter. 1 year later, Oswald would purchase by mail a rifle with telescopic sight and a .38 revolver. That year, he allegedly attempted to shoot retired United States Major General Edwin A. Walker, who had been a staunch critic of communism. Later in 1963, Oswald was denied passage to Cuba and the USSR during a trip to Mexico City. He returned to Texas and started a job at the Texas School Book Depository in Dallas. In an interview with Frontline, investigative journalist Gerald Posner said Oswald's hatred wasn't for Kennedy. He said, what he did hate was the system and what Kennedy stood for. He despised America. He despised capitalism. When he eventually had the opportunity to strike against Kennedy, it was that symbol of the system that he was going after. According to the official investigation, Oswald acted alone, firing 3 bullets from his 6th floor window at the southeast corner of the book depository. Kennedy was struck once in the upper back and once in the head, and slumped over onto his wife, First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy. Texas Governor John B. Connally Jr., who was also in the limo with his wife, was shot once in the back. He recovered from his injuries though. After killing Tippit, Oswald was arrested a few minutes later in the back of a movie theater. During his interrogation, Oswald denied any guilt. He told reporters, "I didn't shoot anybody. No sir, I'm just a patsy." The First Lady and Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, who had been 3 cars behind Kennedy in the motorcade, returned to Air Force One at Dallas Love Field with Kennedy's body in a bronze casket. Johnson was sworn in at approximately 2:38 p.m. as the 36th President of the United States while aboard the airplane prior to takeoff. Jacqueline Kennedy, still in a pink suit splattered with blood, stood at Johnson's side. An autopsy on Kennedy's body was performed at Bethesda Naval Hospital in Maryland. In his first public statement, Johnson said, "This is a sad time for all people. We have suffered a loss that cannot be weighed. For me, it is a deep personal tragedy. I know that the world shares the sorrow that Mrs. Kennedy and her family bear. I will do my best. This is all I can do. I ask for your help, and also God's." On November the 23rd of 1963, Johnson declared November 25th a National Day of Mourning. On Sunday morning, November the 24th, in front of the whole press, Oswald, who was being led to be transferred to the county jail from Dallas Police Headquarters, was shot by Ruby at point blank in the stomach with a small caliber pistol. Oswald died at Parkland Hospital, where Kennedy had died 2 days earlier. Ruby was indicted on November the 26th and convicted of murdering Oswald and sentenced to death by electric chair. The ruling was overturned on appeal, but it didn't matter because Ruby died in prison in 1967 before a new trial could take place due to an illness. On November 25th, a horse-drawn caisson carried Kennedy's flag-draped coffin to St. Matthew's Catholic Cathedral from the Capitol Rotunda. More than 800,000 people lined Pennsylvania Avenue to watch the procession. The Washington Post is quoted, "The president's caisson was drawn by 4 horses, including the riderless horse named Blackjack, a magnificent black gelding, which carried an empty saddle and saber." The JFK library explained, "Boots were reversed in the stirrups. The riderless horse is one of the highest military honors bestowed upon the fallen." Kennedy was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery following the Requiem Mass, with leaders from dozens of nations in attendance. Jacqueline Kennedy lit the eternal flame that has continued to flicker since JFK's death.